Joining me now. Oh, wait, no. Am I doing that, Andrew? Or am I going regular intro?
I mean, it's up to you. If Fred is basically one of us.
I'm just going to start the episode.
Okay. He's one of us now. So, yeah,
he's one of us. So, there you go.
To the episode.
Hey there, Knicks fans. How you doing? It's your boy, Jonathan Macri, with you for another episode of the Knicks Film School Podcast. Joined today by a man who, I guess, learned his lesson. Don't send $1 to any begging Saudi princes who are out of luck. Don't give their Twitter password to their dry cleaner. I don't know. Fred Katz of The Athletic. It's been an interesting last few weeks for you. How you doing, buddy?
I'm great. Got my Twitter back just in time to see Berman slander me. It was great.
I didn't know if we were going to go there or not. So let's go.
Dude, it's so funny. How are we not?
He has come off the top rope like a solid half dozen times.
He's just so
in Palm
funny.
Beach or wherever he is.
Like he's just so funny. He just kills me. He kills me. Coming out passive aggressively tweeting about my stories, not adding me, not mentioning the story, but he's tweeting about me.
Yeah.
I wanted to text him, but I was like, you know what? I don't need to. I'm just gonna tweet at him, let him know I saw it.
He kills me.
See? I mean, to be clear, I love Mark, to be clear.
Oh, Mark's great. Did you see the picture of him in front of, I guess I call it an automobile. It was on Twitter.
Oh, yeah.
I want to believe that is his car and that he drives it around. I really do, but I figured.
It's not his car. And it's like a pink car with so for those who didn't see it, because they have lives like us and don't live on Twitter all the time. Yeah. Mark Berman, former Knicks beat reporter for the New York Post, longtime reporter. I'm sure if you listen to this podcast, you know who Berman is.
Yeah.
Mark Berman tweeted out a picture of him wearing a Relax shirt. Obviously, it was the phenomenal moment when Mitchell Robinson told him to relax during a presser last year. And he was in front of a car that was like pink with an alligator on it. And
several alligators. I think there were more than one alligator on the car. Yeah.
Several alligators. Yeah. Well, he's in Florida. So there are always several. There are just several alligators everywhere.
Yes.
But I'll add some color for you. I mean, Mitchell Robinson saw it and retweeted it.
Yes.
Mitchell Robinson also was obsessing in the locker room the other day about the car.
Was he?
Because he asked us. He was like, "You guys see Berman's Relax shirt?" And we were laughing about it. And he was like, "Is that his car? Like, what is that car?" And Steve Popper's like, "No, that's not his car." But reasonable question.
I think it's very reasonable. Funny you bring up Mitch. We're gonna talk about him in a bit because you have a story dropping on Mitch that you've been working on. I think probably. I don't know, since you were in college, maybe yeah.
Don't oversell it. When you say that, like, I've been working on it for a long time, it makes it sound like it's, this is some huge thing.
Don't undersell this
piece. It's short. It's the worst piece of journalism I'll ever put out in my life. So saying I've been working on it for a long time is really just going to make me sound even less impressive.
I don't know about that. We're going to get to that in a second. But first, you wrote a piece that is, I'll go out on a limb and say a bit more serious. It's a lovely piece. It is a piece essentially that is an ode to where this franchise is at right now, where the New York Knicks are at after what I think anybody would agree is a successful season, although apparently some former beat writers would dispute that it is. I don't know what the hell Mark was saying. The point is, this has been a really good season for the Knicks, and you wrote about it, and your point, that's what Berman took issue with. Your point was that they are ahead of schedule. And I think the piece is great because it really does detail how this is a team that, for all intents and purposes, like anytime you have a fan base full of diehard crazies like myself, and like 95% of us, excluding Robert Cross, had this team at something less than what they're going to finish at, that means that they've done something right by definition, right?
Yeah, totally. And when I say ahead of schedule in the story, the context that I put it in is, okay, I brought up I invoked the Donovan Mitchell trade, which I try not to do, or the non-trade, I should say. I try not to do that because it's just reality, like, though. I know, but it's just like, I'm so over it. And if I'm over it, then I'm sure my readers are over it. Like, it's just kind of a tired topic, you know? But I invoked the Donovan Mitchell trade to try to put it into a greater context, because the logic around the Donovan Mitchell trade at the time was, one of the reasons the Knicks can't give up all this stuff for Donovan Mitchell is because they won't have enough left to trade for a second star. And the thing that I wrote, it was a criticism that I had of them at the time. I wrote it. I said it on podcasts. I probably said it on this podcast.
You did.
Like, one of the things that came out of that was like, okay, I didn't have any problem with them not trading for Mitchell. That would have been a lot for them to give up for the first guy. I had no problem. I didn't blame them for that. I didn't think their process was bad. But what I think came mounted from that in terms of just like long-term evaluation is, okay, the next guy who's as good as Donovan Mitchell is going to cost as much or more than Donovan Mitchell. So you're going to be going through the exact same process over once again next summer or next trade deadline or whatever. And that was the reason that I brought it up, because that's no longer the context after this year. And I think no matter how this season ends, this season's a victory for the Knicks. Because that's what makes them ahead of schedule. They came into this year, even they themselves, thinking they were 2 stars away. And I think it's pretty clear that now at 46-33, with the number 5 offense in the league, and with Jalen Brunson playing the way he's playing, Julius Randle playing the way he's playing, Quickly's development, a lot of the young guys they have around them, and the way that they played since going down to 9 guys in the rotation on December 4th, they're 36-20. Yep. I think it's pretty clear that they're 1 star away, if it's the right star. It might not be the right star, in which case, whatever. But if it's a real star, we're talking a real A-list star, like, they're 1 star away. Well, and that's huge. That's a big difference.
It's a massive difference. And I just it's weird because we're not, we meaning the NBA, is not that far removed from when Kawhi Leonard was traded for DeMar DeRozan and, a pick, and Jakob Poeltl and a pick. And when Paul George was traded for, Victor Oladipo and Domantas Sabonis, before Victor Oladipo and Domantas Sabonis were Victor Oladipo and Domantas Sabonis. So it's like, I think there is this fallacy out there amongst some that, like, hey, you never know, there might be the right circumstance. Like, that doesn't happen anymore, where you get, like, now it's like, if a guy's an all-NBA player, or even if he's not an all-NBA player, if he's thought of in that echelon, you're just going to have to pay out the nose.
Yeah. Now Derek White costs you a 1st-round pick and a 1st-round swap. A distant swap, as you pointed out. Yeah. Now DeJounte Murray costs you 2 unprotecteds and a protected. And I know people say that pick that San Antonio got in the DeJounte Murray trade was the Charlotte trade. It was the Charlotte pick that the Knicks formerly had, that they traded for Cam Reddish. Yeah, and a lot of people are like, oh, that's never going to convey. It's protected for a really long time, and the Hornets suck. And if you look at teams' analytics models that project how teams, like, how likely picks are to convey, that is projected to convey in the analytics models. So I'm not saying it definitely will. I'm just saying that the numbers say it is more likely than not to convey. So they traded a protected pick and 2 unprotections for DeJounte Murray, who's a very good player, but he's not Paul George.
No, it's not quite.
He hasn't really changed the Hawks all that much.
Well, that's I wish we had time to, like, go around the league, and I want to get your opinions on all 30 teams, because, man, that Atlanta situation is something. But back to the Knicks. The other thing I wanted to say, I love how you put it, where you made sure to reference in the story that this team has 1 All-Star and 1 guy who's likely to make All-NBA, and that's Julius Randle. And yet, the way you talk about the way you write about Jalen Brunson, and I completely agree with this because I've watched all of the games this season, Jalen Brunson, he feels like the star, right? Like, make sense of that, Fred? Because I'm not sure I can make sense of it, but that's how it feels, right?
Yeah. It does. It's his team. And you know why? You know why it feels like that?
Why?
Because when you ask Julius Randle, hey, why are you so much better this year than you were last year? What's the first thing he says?
Is it Jalen Brunson?
Oh, well, I have Jalen Brunson now.
Yeah.
That's the first thing he said. So when Julius Randle himself is being like, yeah, well, Jalen Brunson's amazing. He's helped me out everywhere. When he's saying it himself, then we all just got to be like,
okay.
Yeah. I mean, that's the last step. If he's saying it, then we all better say it, So I think he's their engine. He's the one who makes them run. He is the one who I think has the biggest influence on their locker room, the off-court stuff, all of that.
Can I pick your brain on that for a sec?
Yeah.
Because we're not there. You are. Can you give me some color commentary on top of that? Like, give me maybe.
Yeah, sure. So Julius is a hard worker and everything, but he's just like a quiet guy. Like he's a quiet, kind of keeps to himself sort of personality. He's not like some huge life of the party person. I don't mean this is knock, by the way. It's like he's a quiet, he's a quiet dude. He's not like some loud, uproarious dude. And I don't think Jalen is that either. Tibbs likes to talk about a situation where he was saying right after Jalen signed, like right after he signed, he was at the practice facility. And then a few days later, there were just 10 other Knicks at the practice facility because he was there. And I think it's stuff like that where Jalen's not really loud either. He's definitely more of a modest personality, I would say. But like those guys definitely follow him for sure. Like if you ask those guys in the locker room, like who's the leader of that team, they'll say Jalen. And by the way, Julius will say Jalen. It just feels more like his team. And he's also the point guard. When you're a point guard, it just naturally comes when you're the point guard. You're the guy who's facilitating everything, organizing everything. It's your job to make sure, like, okay, Mitch hasn't touched the ball in a little while and he's starting to play with his hands down on defense. Yeah. Let's get him a touch. Like, you're the one who is facilitating all that kind of stuff for the most part. There are obviously some teams where it's like LeBron or something, but for the most part, like, that is the job task to the point guard. It's certainly the job task to the point guard now. He's their crunch time guy too. I mean, what's their most reliable crunch time offense? It's just give the ball to Jalen Brunson.
I think he's still third in the league. Last I checked in crunch time points. On
very good efficiency.
Yeah. On very solid efficiency. The thing about Brunson that's interesting to me is like, he clearly, very clearly exists with a big chip on his shoulder that probably got bigger after what Dallas, I guess, didn't do last year or decided not to do. And yet you just said it. There is a humility about him where he does not carry himself like you mentioned LeBron James. Like, I don't know. Maybe this is just my perception, and feel free to correct me. Again, you're the one in the locker rooms. I feel like the personality of your common NBA superstar is it's like big, it's like they know that they act like they are an NBA superstar, which is, again, there's nothing wrong with that. Jalen Brunson doesn't seem to act like that. And yet he does have this outsized confidence, because if he didn't have that outsized confidence, like, how in the hell would he be able to go about his business? So like, there's that interesting tightrope I feel like he's walking. Do you get what I'm saying? Yeah.
He got hot after high school. That's what you're saying. He got hot after high school.
That might be your best line since coming on this pod.
Yeah, that's what you're describing.
That's exactly it's literally to a T exactly what I am describing.
Yeah, that's all it is.
Okay, we can move on. Last thing,
he was a second round pick.
Yeah,
he was a multi-year college player. He's always had to scrounge. He's very, very, very. He is like the most typical son of a coach ever.
Okay.
In terms of his personality makeup, I mean, look, when he got hurt in Miami in that crazy game that ended with the Randall buzzer beater.
Yeah.
When he got hurt, he hurt his ankle in that game. And there was a play under the rim where the Knicks were on defense. And there was some play under the rim. I forget exactly what happened, but he rolled his ankle and he went down, and he was like next to the stanchion, out of bounds under the basket. And he was in pain. You could see he was in pain. And the Knicks ran back on offense, and they had a 4-on-5 on offense, and they elected to keep playing. And I think it was Jimmy Butler got a steal. and was just coming down the other way. And Jalen's still under the basket, and he is trying to hobble up the court. Like he is walking like he's like got a peg leg or something, right? Like he just can't put any weight on that leg. And Jimmy Butler,
freight train.
I think it was Jimmy Butler.
I might be able to look it up.
I'm not misremembering this. It was someone on Miami. And if it was someone on Miami, it was probably Jimmy Butler. So I think it was.
Keep going. I'm going to confirm. Confirm this.
He came flying down the court, and Jalen Brunson hobbled to try to get out of the restricted area, and failed to do it, but attempted to take a charge on Jimmy Butler on that play. I actually asked him about it. I said, I asked him, did anybody tell you were an insane person for doing that? and he said no. And I was like, well, that's why he fits in with this team. You know, that's just, I think it was you who tweeted out like, oh no, Benji Riddles tweeted out like, can Jalen Brunson, when it doesn't matter anymore, not take charges?
Yeah.
And I get where Benji's coming from on that. I don't think he's capable of that. I don't think he's capable of not playing the way that he plays all the time.
It was Butler, by the way, because on the previous possession, Butler missed an easy shot, and then they came back and Randall missed a three, and then it was Butler who then made the layup on the ensuing drive.
Yeah. I mean, look, part of the reason that he wanted to come to New York is because he wanted to play for Tibbs. You know, is that out there? I think that's out there.
You just put it out there. If it's not,
now it's out there. I mean, it's true. Part of the reason that he wanted to come to New York is he wanted to play for Tibbs. He's known Tibbs since he was little, and that's how he likes to be coached. You know, that's how his dad coached him. That's how he likes to be coached, and that's how he likes to play. And he just thought he would fit well. You know, it's just like he sets a different sort of example. You know, it's almost like, I'm trying to think, because he's a very understated personality. You know what I mean? He's not like some big rah-rah personality either. But I think people just follow him.
It sounds like you're describing the guy who I think is either the first or second top Tibbs guy in the league, and that's Taj Gibson.
Yeah, that's a good one. Yeah, it's kind of like Taj Gibson. You know what I think is a really interesting dynamic, and I've always wondered about doing a story on it, and I just like don't really know how to do it without it just like, I don't know how to tell the story. But there's a world where Jalen Brunson comes in. He's known Tibbs since he was a little kid.
Mm-hmm.
His dad is not only a coach on the team, but has been Tibbs's guy forever.
Every stop.
He is known Leon since he was a little kid.
Yep.
He's friends with Leon's kids. Leon's son is his rep. Yep. Like, there's a world where he comes in and either a few people in that locker room or most people in that locker room are like, well, coach's son, get whatever he wants. And it was just, not only was it never like that, he at least in my experience, it wasn't like that.
From what he could tell.
From what I can tell, it not only has it not been like that, but like they really respect him. They really listen to him. I think it's really interesting he was able to overcome that, because you see some places where you play for a coach plays, you know, a son plays for his coach, or a son plays for his dad.
Yeah.
And, you know, but it's mostly like in college and stuff, and it causes some jealousy issues or whatever.
I mean, this may be a bridge too far, but like, just throwing it right back to Tom Thibodeau. Tom Thibodeau is a pain in the fucking ass. He is beyond demanding. It can't be. I mean, it may be rewarding to play for him. It cannot be fun to prepare for him, just because I can't imagine I would describe that as fun. And yet I forget where I've read it, but I've absolutely read it, where players will be like, or players have said, or it has been written about players that they think that like, look, we know he's putting in the time. Like, it's not like anybody's questioning whether Tom Thibodeau cares or is giving everything of himself. So it kind of like, if you're a player and he's demanding that of you because that is what you are giving. So turning it to Brunson, if he's putting in all of the work, whether he's the coach's kid or not, like, what are you going to do? The guy's putting in the work.
Yeah, that makes sense. You know what's interesting? I don't know if Tibbs does this or not, but you made me think of a fun story where if you remember Antonio Daniels, he is now
fourth pick in the draft. Fourth pick? I think he was the fourth pick in the draft.
I think I'm thinking of Antonio Davis.
Are you? Hold on. I know. I think I am thinking of Antonio Daniels.
Daniels was the fourth pick in the draft.
Oh, now it's on. Here we go. If I could get you on this,
if you can get me on this,
if I'm way off, then this is staying in the pod, and I'm going to just look very stupid.
But anyway, Antonio Daniels played in the 90s into the 2000s. He was like a good wing. He's now the color commentator for the New Orleans Pelicans.
Yeah!
And by the way,
sorry,
fourth pick in the draft.
Vancouver Grizzlies, baby. How you doing? I didn't realize
that. Yeah. Anyway, he's the play-by-play or the color commentator for the New Orleans Pelicans now. He squawked in the middle of a sentence.
Yeah, listen, I have so little that when I remember.
No, it's a good call. That's a good call. I'm impressed. I will admit defeat, just like I had to with Berman, just like I had to with the Hackers.
Do not ever admit defeat with Berman. You're not allowed. Then I won't let you back on the pod.
Sometimes you have to admit defeat with Berman just so you can move on because like Berman yelled at me after a press conference last year. And for unintentionally cutting him off in the press conference.
Did you?
And yeah. And sometimes you just gotta just be like, yeah. Steve Popper was like, you should really apologize to him. That was really unnecessary. And Berman just wouldn't apologize. I was like, it's fine. It's Mark. Like, it really didn't bother me at all. It's just Mark. Like, Mark does stuff, makes me laugh. I like Mark.
He's a funny guy.
Cracks me up. Anyway. Antonio Daniels.
Yeah, Antonio Daniels.
He told me a story once. Great dude. He's the color commentator for the New Orleans Pelicans and is amazing on the broadcast.
Excellent. Love that broadcast.
It's a great one. Tier 1, one of the best in the league for sure.
100%.
They're amazing. Yep. Right up there with like the Knicks and the Blazers, Nets. Like, that's a great broadcast. So, anyway, he told me he played for the Spurs in the 90s when they won their title in 99. He told me his first day in Spurs camp, he was young. He was like early 20s. And it was the first day of training camp. And they were doing like defensive shell drills or something.
Okay.
And David Robinson messed something up. And Popovich stopped the practice and just went off on David Robinson. And like went crazy. And David Robinson just took it. And then in a drill, like not long later, Tim Duncan, who was still young at this point, but was already like star, messed something up in like some small drill, and Pop went off on Tim Duncan in front of everybody, just ripped him to shreds in front of everybody. And AD said he was there thinking, just being like, oh my God, that's what he does to David Robinson and Tim Duncan. Like, what's he going to do to me when I mess up? Holy crap, I better fall in line. And also, if he yells at me, I better not say a damn thing. I better just take it. He then told me that he later learned that Pop would give Duncan and David Robinson warnings and be like, hey, I'm going to go off on you in practice today. Just
oh my God.
So everybody follows.
Seriously?
Mm-hmm.
Which a lot of guys, their pride would not, they wouldn't even entertain that. Forget, they would like,
they wouldn't even take it fake. No. But apparently it was all staged. But AD was like, it worked, scared the crap out of me, and we won the title. So,
so he said, listen, worked out well. Listen, Brunson. We sit here
anyway, I don't even know why I told that story, but it's a great story.
It's great because, look, you know as well as anyone, because you think about this shit more than anybody, that in the NBA, I don't want to say it's certainly not always about the talent, but like it's about fit. It's about the culture and all of the things that sometimes are buzzwords that we make fun of, but they're there for a reason. And like for this team to have rebounded from last year, and granted other players have gotten better and Julius has obviously rebounded, but like for Brunson to come in and do it. I mean, the impact is just like that's his most improved player case. And then just to close a loop on this, and then I will move on to the Mitch thing, is this like the idea of trading for a star now, whereas I think there was probably a question, or certainly a question last summer, like it didn't matter who you traded for. There was still going to be a question of, is there going to be enough left over? Now, I don't think there's any question. And I don't want to, we'll focus on that in the offseason because like this team has earned the right to have us talk about them and not what they could be doing in the summer. But like, I don't think there's any question now that if they brought in the right guy, it's like, oh, okay, they're a full-fledged contender and you don't have to worry about it.
Also, at some point, markets fluctuate. It's not like for the rest of time now you have to trade 4 unprotected firsts and 3 swaps for a star. At some point, the market turns. And the point that market turns is when somebody has a star they're trying to trade and nobody really has any picks to trade because they've all traded for all the other stars already. And then the teams who have the picks are the teams like OKC who they're not using that to trade for a star this summer. Like that's not happening. Shouldn't say it that definitively. I would be shocked.
Your Oklahoma City Thunder.
Yes, I would be shocked if they did something like that this upcoming summer. The teams with the picks, and that's just like down to just like the Knicks and New Orleans.
I was about to say the Pelicans.
Yeah, Orlando's not going to do it. OKC's not going to do it.
The Blazers would fancy themselves but they would. There
problem
needs to be
is the Blazers are already
pick. Yeah,
right. They have a heavily protected pick all the way in Chicago. I mean, they could use the Knicks pick that they have. They could trade like the Knicks pick, which now is definitely going to convey now that the Knicks are making the playoffs. They have the Knicks 2023 first rounder in the Josh Hart trade. They could try to trade that to get their own pick back, and then use Simons and 4 firsts and swaps to make a big deal. I mean, that's definitely something they could do if they wanted to try to put somebody around Dame. Or they could try to find a way to get Draymond or something. I think they like there's always been like a little Draymond Portland thing.
Really?
I just feel like not like a real thing. I mean, just like a people on the internet being like he'd be really good with Dame thing.
Well, maybe. I don't necessarily disagree with that.
Yeah, no, he would be good with Dame, and Lord knows they need the defensive help. But I don't think that's turning them from 13th in the West to contention. Either way, the Blazers have to do some damn maneuvering in order to make this happen. And by the way, if I'm Chicago, I'm not doing it for like just the Knicks pick in the 20s. I'm saying, oh, you guys are desperate to do this? Give us other stuff.
Yeah.
Give us lots of stuff. Or if you want, why don't we just wait until you find the trade that you want and we'll loop it in as a 3-teamer and then you'll be real desperate and you'll have to really send us stuff. And it's like, it complicates things. Like the Knicks have a lot of good pieces. New Orleans has a lot of good pieces. That's another one. But it's at some point the market starts to dry up a little bit because there is a finite amount of currency. You can't just trade a first round pick 107 years out. You can only trade one 7 years out. So there's a finite amount of currency. It's like Monopoly. It's like when you get to the end of Monopoly, it's like it's only a couple people have all the money.
Yeah, well, ideally one person has all the money, and then the game ends.
Yeah, I clearly don't know how to play Monopoly.
I was always a big Monopoly fan growing up. Mitch, I want to talk about this, and then we'll talk about Julius, and then get you out of here. You have the story that we were kind of playfully teasing before. I say whatever you want about it. I don't want to spoil it since I know a little bit of what it's about, but just like even taking a step back, the thing I'm most curious about, because clearly he lets his guard down around you guys in the locker room. I think there is, how should I put this? Some modicum of concern amongst some in the fan base that like Mitch is whatever Mitch is, like, the Twitter stuff and all that, like rubs.
You
maybe
mean like too goofy, you mean?
Yeah, does it like rub teammates the wrong way? Do they feel like he's being selfish or anything. The way I have always taken it, and maybe this is just because I've kind of talking to you a little bit offline, is like he's a big goofball, and I have to think everybody who looks at him is like, oh, it's just Mitch. Like it's just Mitch being Mitch and not care. Can you, as you discuss your story that you have dropping, like just shed any light on this?
Yeah. So before we discuss anything with the story, I have to put out a disclaimer. Normally when I come on here and I say I have a story coming out next day or whatever, it's like, I know for sure that it's coming out. It's possible. I said this on the last podcast. It's as of now, this is supposed to come out Wednesday morning.
Yes.
But my editor is yet to see it. He knows the subject matter.
Okay.
But it's possible that my editor sees this and says there is absolutely no way that this can ever see the light of day. This is the worst piece of crap I've ever seen. It is about Mitchell Robinson's obsession for real with a New York Post back page headline that was an accidental euphemism.
Accidental, we think.
And he just won't stop talking about it. He just thinks it's so funny. And it's only about that. There is no point to the story.
There's no block percentage. There's no
point. There's no moral. There's no beginning, middle, and end. It is the biggest waste of time. There are no morals. It is the biggest waste of time. If you read it, you will be like, what have I done with my life?
I need my last 5 minutes back. Okay.
Yes, it is going to be the biggest.
You're really selling it, friend.
No, I mean, it's just the writing it was, and this is why you say like I've been working on it for a while, but I haven't been working on it for a while. I've just been telling you about it for a while because I think it's so funny. I'm like,
you've built this thing up to me like War and Peace.
I know. It's not even long. It's like really short. I was like,
great. It's great.
But it's just about the constant comments that he's made about this headline, and they're very funny. And I asked Mitch if it was okay with him if I wrote what he had said and all that, and he told me that the people got to know, as if he was like an advocate. Not even a comedian, just an advocate for this. So, yeah, I mean, my thing with Mitch is I don't think that stuff, the complaining about his role and all that, I don't think it really rubs people the wrong way. Now I don't think Tibbs likes it.
Oh,
I don't
really?
think Tibbs I don't think Tibbs like hates Mitch or anything like that.
Yeah, no, I know what you mean.
Tibbs is just he's a very no nonsense kind of guy. And that
if you could avoid distractions.
That definitely goes under the category of nonsense, and Tibbs is a very no nonsense kind of guy. He just doesn't want that stuff. He wants, you should be focused on basketball all the time. Everyone's got to make sacrifices. You sacrifice for the good of the team. But I think ultimately the reason why, first of all, I do think people just kind of look at Mitch as like, Mitch is Mitch. I do actually in the story have an RJ Barrett quote that he said to me once where he just says, Mitch, I asked him, I don't even remember. I have it in the transcript. I asked him something about something that Mitch did when he was goofing around, something really funny that Mitch did. And I asked RJ, like, is Mitch like this in like film sessions, like group film sessions? And RJ just got this really big smile and he goes, Mitch is always Mitch. And
that's great.
Yeah, it was great. It was great. It was really funny. It was really funny. It was a great response.
That's good though.
But he said it with like, genuine appreciation. Not like I'm exhausted by Mitch always being Mitch. I just think he's always making guys in there laugh. He's a huge jokester. He's a total goofball. I think after like the latest Snapchat when he was, complaining about his role, yeah. I think most of the guys on the team thought it was funny. The one guy on the team who had the greatest argument to feel offended by it was Isaiah Hartenstein, who had closed over him the last few games.
I was about to, yeah.
And Hartenstein went out of his way to be like, no, I love, like, he and Mitch are real close. They've become really good friends this year.
I'm sure were you next to him for his soundbite? The New York basketball Twitter account put it out, I think, yesterday for his soundbite. I'm pretty sure it was after the Wizards game, where he was like, we got a great thing going on. I think Mitch was a little bit better than me today. And he seems like just a perfect guy to be in tandem with Robinson.
Yeah, for sure. And they've also they've very clearly become really good friends. Their lockers are always next to each other on the road.
Really?
Yeah. And
that's really cool.
They follow, them, like the two of them and Jericho Sims. Awesome. Their lockers are always together. Jericho's all quiet there, and they're like trying to goof around with Jericho, and Jericho sits there stoically, and the two of them just goof. Like they get along really well. So the person who I think probably would have the most reason to be upset about Mitch saying that, because obviously if Mitch is complaining about how he should be playing more and getting the ball more, then obviously that means Hartenstein should be playing less. And I don't think Isaiah cared at all. Like, he was just like he went out of his way to be like, Mitch is an amazing teammate to me, and he's a great guy. He went out of his way to say that. And it didn't come off as like a cliche to me. I just don't think it's a locker room issue, in part, by the way, because he doesn't do it on the court.
Yeah.
Like if he just started deviating from the offense and started posting guys up, then I think people would react differently. But it's kind of like a follow his actions, not his words sort of thing. He still comes out and he sets screens and he dives to the rim and he offensive rebounds and he protects the rim. It's like he's playing the way that you would want him to play, There
was an instance in the Wizards game where he had I should go back and rewatch it. I thought he had a pretty good, he was a few feet from the basket, and I thought he was like a dribble move away, and I didn't think there was anyone in his immediate vicinity, and he kicked it right back out for an open three, and whoever it was drained the three.
Was that an offensive rebound?
I think that's what it was. Yeah.
Yeah. So if he gets an offensive rebound inside the restricted area, he goes right up. Outside the restricted area, he looks to kick out for three.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
That's their
really cool
philosophy. That's why they have a higher 3-point rate on second chance opportunities than any team in the NBA.
That's a great stat.
Yeah. It's because that's what they do. So it's not just Mitch, it's anyone. If Hartenstein gets one, that's why Hartenstein has started back tapping so much. You look, he will back tap more when he's outside the restricted area. Inside restricted area, he tries to grab it because he wants to go back up. So if he's in the restricted area, they don't say you have to go back up, but if you have your shot, go for it. But if you're outside of it, look to the perimeter. The first place I know Mitch looks is he looks to the corner.
Okay. Well, that's smart.
Often you have a guy in the corner. That's his first read. His first read is the corner, and then he looks to the wing. But he's actually really good at those kickouts. Like, for somebody who we always talk about, isn't the guy who you're going to give the ball. He's not even really known as some sort of great dribble handoff guy or anything like that. He doesn't put it on the floor. He's not really a passer. He's not. Yeah, but that particular read, that particular type of pass, he's extremely composed and very good at it. They are taking more threes on second chance opportunities and that's not volume, by the way, that's rate. So more threes per second chance opportunity. They're taking more than any other team in the league. And the huge reason for that is because of his composure it's not just his offensive rebounds, it's also how composed he is after he gets them. He's really good at that.
And you reminded me actually of a clip that was in Benji's thread after the Cavs game, which I think is going to be. Well, I know we're not doing our playoff preview today. To be very clear, I am aware of the podcast that we were doing next week, in case anybody was wondering. But
yes, I'm coming back, and we can discuss the details of the Mitch story if it ever comes out.
I trust it will. And we will.
There's a I'm going to say it's minimal, but there is a world in which I file this story. My editor gives it one read, and he's just like, you're fired, right? You no longer are employed.
Then we get you full time, which would be great. Yeah. But the play that I'm thinking of that Benji threaded was when they threw. It was a pretty hard double at, I think it was guessing it was Brunson. I forget who, quite frankly, but Mitch was open for the short roll and they dumped it to him and he was pretty quick kick out pass to someone on the foul line extended who then kicked it to the corner and then it was an open three. So like, I feel like that's going to be important for, if whenever he's on the floor in the Cleveland series. Julius, I want to talk about Julius before we get out of here. So your last thing that you wrote before Julius got hurt, I'm just going to read the title of the article. Can Knicks, Julius Randle correct their troubling ways? Troubling, Fred. Troubling.
I don't write my headlines.
You don't?
The only time I have ever given, we're taking this full circle. The only time that I have ever even given a suggestion for a headline is this Mitch article that I want to run tomorrow, and I just want
bring it back.
And I want to call it a meaningless anecdote about Mitchell Robinson. That's a catchy. That would get, if I didn't know about it already. Well, because the only other time I've ever done a story like this was about an interaction I had with PJ Tucker, which was equally as meaningless. And I called it a meaningless anecdote about PJ Tucker. And I'm just going to make it into a thing. So next one's Mitchell Robinson. Maybe. Who knows? If it doesn't publish, I'll recite it on this podcast.
That's all I can ask you to do. And I'm word for word, though. It has to be. So you posted that story, which you did not write the headline for, before the Houston game. Julius was, God, it seems like a million years ago now. From what I recall, he was fine in the Houston game. I don't really, I feel like maybe his defense was kind of as it had been for a while, but the story you posted was after the 3 straight games when he had gotten 3 straight technicals, and one of which also saw him go off for 57 points. This seems like kind of an unfair thing to talk about now because he's injured and the concern is just like getting him back on the court. And I'm totally on board with that. But like, where was your mind at in terms of Julius having covered this team last year and seeing all that came with that, and then seeing like, were you? I don't know how else to ask this other than say, like, if you were a Knicks fan, would you have been worried at what you had been seeing on the court from him?
Yeah, well, I think, okay, now I remember the story you're referencing. The reason it was troubling ways was because it was that was after the Quickly altercation.
Yes,
and that was why. And it was really just about, I mean, look, that looked very 2021-y of Julius. To me, that's not a thing that you just get over and it's done. Like
the Quickly interaction.
The Quickly interaction.
Okay.
Like I'm not saying that Julius and Quickly all of a sudden hate each other forever. That's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is, for example, and I thought about this after I wrote the story, and I wished I had put it in the story. What I did put in that story was earlier this year when Julius got ejected from that Sacramento game at MSG. He picked up 2 techs in the third quarter of the game.
That's right. Yeah.
Yeah, like 5 minutes into the third quarter, he picked up 2 techs.
I'd forgotten that.
Yeah, and after the game, Tibbs said that we need to do a better job of holding him back. Everybody, the staff,
that's
players,
right.
Whatever.
It has to be a whole team effort to control him.
A whole team effort to hold him back, which really obviously alleviated a lot of the blame off of the 28-year-old father of 2 who couldn't keep his composure, right?
And it was also in the midst of the winning streak, so I feel like that did not get a lot of negative.
And Julius was having an incredible game. He had 27 at the half.
That's true. Yeah.
And then the Kings started blitzing him at the start of the third quarter, and he was just slicing them up. Like when Julius struggles, it's because he can't read double teams. But every once in a while, he'll recognize double teams real quick, and he's just becomes so difficult to guard when he's scoring. And the Kings, he was unguardable that game. He was unguardable. He just kept hitting RJ with this same pass to RJ. RJ was making this little cut to the nail every time, and Julius was just bouncing it to him, and RJ was hitting Mitch for lobs or layups or floaters or whatever. Anyway, that's neither here nor there.
No, it's important.
Well, so during the Quickly altercation, or before the Quickly altercation, Quickly comes in and tries to pull him away, right? But his reward is that Julius yells at him really aggressively in front of everybody.
Yes.
So next time Julius is going after a ref, is anyone trying to pull him away? Like, if you want your teammates to pull you away, your coach wants your teammates to pull you away, then don't you at least owe them the respect of letting them pull you away? Or at least, like, if you're going to get aggressive, don't get aggressive with them for that action. I wonder if guys are going to just like pitter patter next time Julius gets like that and just be like, let him do his thing. I'm not ended up like Quick, Look, Julius is a chill guy, but like we've seen that he just randomly gets a short fuse sometimes. Like
he has an edge to him.
He has an edge to him. Yeah. I mean, he's been so, for the most part, so good this year that I don't think I'm concerned in the long term because of anything about that. I'm concerned because he's hurt. I mean, who knows what's going to happen with the ankle. And obviously it's going to be really hard for them to beat Cleveland if he's not able to play in that series or part of that series. Like, we have no idea what's going to happen there. But Julius has been so, like, he's had an incredible year. He's had an amazing year. And so I'm not going to say like, oh, this one thing happened 3 weeks ago, but like, I just think those things happen. They're kind of hard to get over a little bit,
I think, again, because last season was, again, it was a whole season. It wasn't like it was a week or a month. It was a whole season that Julius, he was very off as we spoke about. I still remember the conversation we had, and it was early on when you made the very astute point that, like, if it's going on this long, it's probably not about basketball, and we still don't really, I mean, maybe but I don't know. It still hasn't been reported, whatever may or may not have been going on. Neither here nor there. But I think because it lasted for so long, and like, even though it was just a couple of games where it seems like the as you say, the 2021-ish Julius was coming back, I know for me, like, I was like, whoa, wait a minute. What's going on here? And it definitely set my antennas up as far as like heading into the playoffs. Just hope.
I mean, look. Oh, sorry, John.
I feel silly in retrospect, even we're having that fear. That's all.
Look, the only reason that we're having this discussion the way that we are is because of how he was last season. Like,
yes,
Obi and RJ got into it on the bench even more recently than Quickly and Julius did. Like, Obi and RJ were like legit into it. Tibbs had to jump in and throw RJ a stiff arm when he popped off the bench. Like, they legit got into it, but no one's concerned about it because they made up immediately, and it really seemed to be a one-time thing. By every measure that I've seen, RJ and Obi are legit friends. They get along well. They're both, I don't think there's like anything to be concerned about there. And it was a one-time thing. The reason that we're talking about Julius the way that we're talking about him is because it isn't a one-time thing. It's something we saw so much last year. And I know that, like, he's been so much better about that kind of stuff this year, but I know that, like, at the back of everyone's mind there is just like, okay, he's been great, but exactly. There's just like a little thing, like, is he going to continue to be great? Is that going to happen? Okay, there was the blip in the Sacramento game, right? And then as soon as the Sacramento game is done, that next day he talks to us at practice, and he totally diffuses the whole thing. He's like, man, I really lost my mind there, right? And he's making fun of himself. He's saying like, man, I looked like I did last year. He's like, yeah, I even made a bet with someone that I wasn't going to get 3 texts this year. And right there, that was my 3rd and my 4th. Guess I lost the bet. Like, he was really poking fun of himself, and he was very self-effacing and just totally diffused it and made everybody, convinced everybody, and rightfully so, that like this wasn't going to be a thing again. This was one time where he was frustrated, and that was it. and it didn't happen again for a while. So I don't know. I'm not like really that like overtly concerned about it or anything, but it's just when last year goes the way last year goes, it's like everybody gets a little bit of PSD from it.
I didn't want to use
how he acted last year.
I didn't want to use the PTSD term, but that's the one I was going to use. Speaking of PTSD, my daughter was screaming bloody murder from the other room, which is a signal that I must let you go, Fred Katz. This was great. I cannot wait to read the Mitch story. In full disclosure, I'm more excited to talk to you next week because I really want to dig into a series that we don't know. It's 7:00. The Nets. I got to go get my slow-mo jersey on for tonight. So hopefully by the time
it's Yankees Phillies. You got Domingo Herman on the mound.
I'm all about Wolves Nets tonight. I would like to put this to bed. I would very much like for this Pacers game not to matter. But what I was going to say is very excited to preview what I'm pretty sure is going to be Knicks Cavs next week because that I think that's going to be pretty juicy to get into that. Before I let you go, can you, as you always do, remind the fine folks at home if they somehow, some way do not know where to find you and your amazing content, where they could do that?
Well, when I'm not hacked on Twitter, you can follow me there at Fred Katz. You can read me over at The Athletic. I had that story that John so kindly mentioned earlier in the pod that was out on Monday. And, hopefully I have this Mitch thing. I'm going to have a lot of stuff coming up leading into playoff week because there's going to be that big lag between the playoffs. So I've got a quickly thing that I'm trying to write. I'm hoping to get him either in Indiana tomorrow. I'm in Indianapolis right now, and I'm hoping to get him in Indiana tomorrow or on Friday. Because there's a quickly thing I'd really like to write if I'm able to do it. I'm going to have series preview stuff. Might have a year-end wrap-up stuff. I also have a almost as goofy as the Mitch one, Josh Hart story that I've started interviews on, but I don't know if I'm going to have the time to finish it or not. So I might just scrap it. But I think I might
Josh Hart content.
I think I might throw the goofy Josh Hart story up somewhere at some point because there is a Mitchell Robinson quote in there that I've already gotten, and it's so funny.
Look, man, you're the only person I can say this about. I read every word that you write. Love it, absolutely love it. And until
tomorrow morning,
I'm gonna. What time is it gonna? If it drops, it's gonna drop at like 9 a.m. Right?
No, if it drops, I think it'll drop like earlier than that. I think it'll drop.
Oh, okay. Then you're gonna get an early text from me because I'm gonna wake up just to read that and then bother you about it. Fred Katz of The Athletic, you're always too kind with your time, and it is. I will say this yet again. We are privileged to have you come and shed insight onto or on this team here in this format. So
you guys do an amazing job. You know how often I listen. So.
Thank you, man.
Sometimes I like just coming into the super chat and trolling you.
If I didn't have to go, I'd give you shit about that. Okay. Thank you, Fred.
That was fun. I really did enjoy
I'm sure it was.
Sending in. I was going to send in more stuff, but I couldn't really keep up the pace.
Yeah, it's like the Wild West in there.
I couldn't figure it out for a while. I was texting them to Andrew.
Fred, the very best was you like not knowing how to do it. So like, and then you figured out you could put in different decimal numbers and everything. So we're like 6 super chats in before you knew you could include text or figured out how to include text. And by the end of the stream, you're just like 412 at a time sending us super chats. It was amazing.
No, John, I was really disappointed, honestly, that John didn't read the exact amount of money that I was tipping because I feel like
I was trying to.
Yeah. Like for the audio listeners, like they don't see that I was tipping like $3.17.
Yeah,
it was incredible. You're a special.
So I gave you guys a lot of money that night.
We owe you. Beer's on me whenever we meet up in the
beers are already on you because Obi Toppin's not going to average 20.
Oh shit! Bingo. Also, hasn't played 100 minutes with Randall. John's about to get thrown out his window if he doesn't leave. So thank you.
All right,
Fred.
Bye, everybody.
See you guys.